As John Marston stood surrounded by enemy gunslingers, his fate seemed sealed. The odds were against him, and he knew that this could very well be the end of his journey. But just as the gunslingers prepared to take their shots, a bolt of purple lightning struck the ground behind them. To John's surprise, the lightning summoned an endless army of wolves and cougars, their eyes glowing with a strange purple light. These creatures had been corrupted by exposure to a purple cosmic meteor, giving them powers beyond anything John had ever seen before. The corrupted predators wasted no time in launching a ferocious attack on the enemy gunslingers. Some of them pounced on their foes, tearing them apart with their claws and fangs, while others engaged in an eternal battle between themselves. The clash of these creatures sent shockwaves rippling through the Wild West, causing chaos and destruction wherever they went. As the fighting raged on, John found himself sucked into a portal and transported to a familiar place, the Grove Street parking lot. He was greeted by CJ, who took him on a tour of the area and explained that he had been brought here for a purpose. Meanwhile, back in the Wild West, the eternal battle between the wolves and cougars continued unabated. Their glowing purple eyes enabled them to regenerate and heal from every blow they received, making them nearly invincible. The shockwaves they emitted blew away the enemy gunslingers, leaving them no chance against these powerful creatures. John realized that he was now a part of this eternal conflict, and that he had a role to play in the battle between the corrupted predators and their enemies. With CJ by his side, he joined the fight, using his skills and experience to turn the tide in favor of the wolves and cougars. As the battle raged on, John felt a sense of exhilaration and excitement unlike anything he had ever experienced before. The thrill of the fight, combined with the mysterious powers of the purple-eyed predators, made him feel alive in a way he had never felt before. In the end, the wolves and cougars emerged victorious, thanks to the help of John and CJ. The enemy gunslingers were defeated, and peace was restored to the Wild West once more. But the eternal battle between the corrupted predators continued, their glowing eyes forever clashing in a never-ending cycle of violence and power. And as John looked out at the chaotic scene before him, he knew that he had found his purpose in this strange new world, to fight alongside the wolves and cougars and to bring balance to the eternal conflict that raged on. The final battle was upon John Marston, the seasoned gunslinger who had been through hell and back to reunite with his family. As he stood his ground, facing the enemy gunslingers who had been hunting him down, a sense of calm washed over him. He knew that this could very well be his last stand, but he was prepared to face his fate head-on. Just as the enemy gunslingers were about to make their move, a sudden purple lightning strike illuminated the horizon behind them. John's eyes widened in astonishment as he witnessed a phenomena he had never seen before. Out of the purple light emerged an endless army of wolves and cougars, their eyes glowing with a strange cosmic energy. These corrupted predators, tainted by exposure to the purple cosmic meteor that had struck the earth, let out a deafening roar as they charged towards the enemy gunslingers. The ground shook beneath their feet as they clashed with the horde, their purple eyes constantly glowing brighter with each attack. John watched in awe as the wolves and cougars fought ferociously, their bodies constantly healing and regenerating thanks to the power of their glowing eyes. The shockwaves from their clashes reverberated throughout the Wild West, causing chaos and destruction in their wake. As the battle raged on, the wolves and cougars showed no signs of slowing down. Their eternal struggle seemed to have no end in sight, as their purple eyes continued to fuel their never-ending conflict. John could only watch in amazement as the predators displayed a level of power and resilience that seemed otherworldly. Suddenly, a powerful burst of energy erupted from the wolves and cougars, sending a shockwave that knocked John off his feet. Before he knew it, he was being pulled into a swirling vortex of purple light, his surroundings fading away as he was transported to a different realm. When John's vision cleared, he found himself standing in the Grove Street parking lot, greeted by a familiar face. It was CJ, the protagonist from another world, who had taken it upon himself to show John around this strange new world. Together, they embarked on a tour of the city, with CJ revealing the wonders and mysteries of this alternate dimension. John was amazed by the sights and sounds that surrounded him, grateful for the chance to experience something truly extraordinary. Meanwhile, back in the Wild West, the eternal battle between the wolves and cougars raged on. Their purple eyes continued to glow with a powerful energy, fueling their never-ending conflict and causing them to emit shockwaves and light energy waves that shook the very foundations of their world. As John marveled at this new reality, he couldn't help but feel a sense of exhilaration. The thrill of the unknown, the excitement of the unexpected, it all made for an unforgettable adventure that he would carry with him forever. And as the wolves and cougars continued their eternal struggle, John knew that he had witnessed something truly remarkable. The power of the purple cosmic meteor had brought forth a force of nature that was both beautiful and terrifying, a spectacle that would forever remain etched in his memory. As John Marston stood face to face with the enemy gunslingers, he knew that his fate was sealed. The odds were stacked against him, and he prepared himself for what seemed like an inevitable demise. But just as the enemy gunslingers raised their weapons, a sudden burst of purple lightning struck the ground behind them. To John's astonishment, the lightning summoned an endless army of wolves and cougars, their eyes glowing a vibrant shade of purple. These predators had been corrupted by a cosmic meteor that had crashed into the Wild West, imbuing them with unnatural powers. The wolves and cougars wasted no time in attacking the enemy gunslingers, their ferocious roars echoing through the air. The battle between the corrupted predators and the enemy gunslingers was chaotic and brutal. Some of the wolves and cougars focused on tearing apart the gunslingers, while others engaged in an eternal clash with each other. Their purple glowing eyes constantly regenerated and healed them, ensuring that the conflict would never come to an end. As the shockwaves from their clashes reverberated through the Wild West, John found himself caught in the crossfire. The sheer power and intensity of the battles between the wolves and cougars threatened to overwhelm him. And just when it seemed like he would be consumed by the chaos, he was suddenly sucked into a portal. When John emerged from the portal, he found himself in the Grove Street parking lot, greeted by CJ. The former gangster welcomed John and took him on a tour of the neighborhood, assuring him that he was safe from the eternal conflict that raged in the Wild West. Meanwhile, back in the old Wild West, the wolves and cougars continued their endless battle, their purple eyes glowing brighter with each clash. The shockwaves they emitted grew in power and intensity, causing devastation wherever they went. John's family felt the effects of the chaos, their vulnerability increasing as the conflict raged on. Despite the chaos and destruction that the corrupted predators brought, there was a strange beauty to the eternal battle that played out in the Wild West. The creatures moved with a grace and power that was mesmerizing to behold, even as they unleashed their destructive might on everything in their path. As John watched the conflict from a distance, he couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the power and resilience of the wolves and cougars. They fought on endlessly, their purple eyes glowing with a fierce determination that seemed to defy all logic. And as the battle raged on, John Marston knew that he had witnessed something truly extraordinary. The eternal conflict between the corrupted predators was a sight to behold, a testament to the strength and ferocity of the creatures that roamed the Wild West. And as he watched in awe, he couldn't help but wonder what other mysteries lay hidden in the untamed wilderness of the Old West. As the enemy gunslingers closed in on John Marston, ready to take his life, a sudden burst of purple lightning struck the ground behind them. John watched in awe as an endless army of wolves and cougars, their eyes glowing with a sinister purple light, emerged from the shadows. These corrupted predators, tainted by exposure to a mysterious purple cosmic meteor, descended upon the enemy gunslingers with a ferocity unlike anything John had ever seen. Some of the creatures leapt at their foes, tearing them apart with sharp claws and teeth, while others engaged in an eternal battle with their own kind, their purple eyes glowing brighter with every clash. The shockwaves emitted by the constant clashes between the wolves and cougars reverberated throughout the entire Wild West, causing chaos and devastation wherever they went. John knew he had to escape, but before he could react, he was suddenly pulled into a swirling portal of light. When he emerged on the other side, he found himself in the Grove Street parking lot, greeted by none other than CJ from Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas. CJ took John on a tour of Los Santos, showing him the sights and sounds of the bustling city. Meanwhile, back in the Wild West, the eternal battle between the purple-eyed wolves and cougars raged on, their power and intensity growing with each passing moment. John's family searched desperately for him, but the sheer destructive force of the shockwaves emitted by the warring creatures made it impossible for them to locate him. As John and CJ flew high above Los Santos in a dodo propeller plane, they watched the ongoing conflict between the wolves and cougars unfold through an AI screen onboard the aircraft. The display showcased the sheer power and destructive capabilities of the eternal battle, leaving John in awe of the chaos that had been unleashed. The purple-eyed predators continued to emit powerful shockwaves and light energy waves as they clashed endlessly, their purple eyes glowing brighter with each passing moment. John knew that he had been thrust into a world unlike anything he had ever experienced, and he could only hope that he would find a way to escape the eternal conflict that raged on around him. As John Marston found himself in the midst of the chaotic and never-ending battle between the corrupted wolves and cougars with their glowing purple eyes, a sense of unease washed over him. He couldn't comprehend the sheer destructive power of these creatures, constantly clashing and emitting shockwaves that reverberated throughout the Wild West. As he was whisked away through a portal and landed in the Grove Street parking lot, he was greeted by CJ, a familiar face from another world. CJ took John on a tour of Los Santos, showcasing the bustling city and its many wonders. However, John couldn't shake the memories of the eternal conflict back in the old Wild West. Meanwhile, in the ongoing battle between the purple-eyed predators, the intensity of their clashes only seemed to grow. The shockwaves they emitted became stronger, causing destruction on a grand scale. The Wild West was no longer a safe haven, but a battlefield where these creatures fought endlessly. As John observed the conflict from the dodo propeller plane, he saw Arthur Morgan being pulled through a portal into Los Santos as well. Arthur, who had been healed from tuberculosis by the shockwaves of the warring beasts, was greeted by Big Smoke, who took him on a tour of the city. The dialogues playing out in the scenario revealed a sense of urgency and uncertainty. The characters were trying to make sense of the situation they found themselves in, unsure of their fate in this strange new world. The thrill of the unknown hung in the air, adding to the tension of the story. As the eternal conflict between the purple-eyed predators raged on, John and Arthur were left to navigate this new reality. The battle continued to escalate, with no end in sight. The sheer power and ferocity of the creatures left them in awe, wondering if they would ever find a way out of this eternal struggle. And so, the story of John Marston and Arthur Morgan in this twisted version of the Wild West unfolded, filled with mystery, danger, and a sense of foreboding. As they tried to make sense of their new surroundings, they were drawn deeper into the chaos and uncertainty of this world, where the only constant was the eternal conflict between the corrupted beasts with their glowing purple eyes.